Oh, so I got on a side note, I picked up this Yeti. Okay, insulated mug, right? But let me tell you, you know what it's the best for, and I know this commercial Yeti, right? Is for ice cream. Holy Moses! You put ice cream in it, and the ice cream doesn't melt. So when it came out, you know how ice cream melts in your bowl and gets kind of soupy. Well, it'll look exactly the way it was when you really start from the bottom. It's amazing. Yeah, no, it's like no kidding. Like I found it. So buy your Yeti today for $19.99.
You know what? You know the film Sideways about the two guys that go off on a trip to California. Sherman?
Yeah.
You have a bit of that. You know the actor guy in that thing. He's very smooth. He's very Sherman. And that, just there as you were doing your thing, it was very. You reminded me a bit of him. You missed your calling. Yeah.
I did. Man, I would if I could do this for a living and just have fun with this kind of stuff. I'd do it all the time. I really do.
Yeah.
This is like the fun part of the job.
Indeed. You know? Yeah. Same here. One of my colleagues said to me today, "Oh, isn't it a bit of a bummer that you're going to be doing this thing on Friday night?" I think quite the opposite. This is one of the fun parts of the job, where we we get to meet our partners.
I love your the background. It's not a background. That's your real house. Right?
This is my attic, believe it or not. I'm up quite high, and this was my wife's artist studio. Then Corona came, and she got evicted, and I took it over as my little office. So I'm in the attic of my home here, and it's in a very warm Copenhagen evening. It's like maybe 30 degrees centigrade, which is very unusual. I have a fan on. Is that bothering you, by the way? Can you hear it?
No, can't hear it. It's perfect.
I might just leave it if that's okay then.
Yeah, totally. All right, Oli's here. Omar, Paul Solsky, Ryan. Hey, welcome. Fireflies.ai is here as well. I love that. We have a different name. I love that. Mark, how you, bud? How are you? To hear from you. So we'll be starting here in about. We'll probably launch this at about 1 minute after the hour, just to allow people to kind of get in, and we'll get started. And Reva, we can go ahead and actually play the Crancer Group loop. Just loop the Crancer Group thing there. Perfect. All right, we can go ahead and pause that. We got 1 more minute to show time. I want to thank everybody already for coming in. This is awesome. Thank you so much for showing up. We're going to kick this off here at 11:01. In the meantime, please use reactions today. We're going to try to actually see if we can start using those reactions. Give us a thumbs up. Give us the heart emojis. Yeah, there we go. Let's start doing that. I think that would be awesome, especially when we're doing some really cool points, or things that you think are cool. Clap them out. Yeah, I think that would be awesome too if you do that today. And also want to make sure that you use the chat wisely as well. Please use the chat. And for those who have gotten here early before we get started, please go ahead and put in your contact information if you want to partner with other partners. We want to use this as a networking opportunity for you as well. and we're really careful with it. All right, so let's get started. Welcome. Hi, good afternoon. This is Sherman Crancer. I'm the president of the Crancer Group, and welcome to the Voice of the Microsoft Partner. This is our 30th episode. Actually, we do this every last Friday of the month, so you can always do this. We put this on Microsoft Teams. We put this on LinkedIn Live, and the majority of our folks are coming from, and now we're publishing it into YouTube. We have over 300 people on LinkedIn Live, and we'll probably end up here around 60 to 100, depending on people coming in. So today, man, this is going to be a great opportunity to really learn from some of the most dynamic people we have out there. We have a big agenda today, and we're going to change it up a tiny bit. We are going to spend the first hour and 5 minutes really digging deep into good news, bad news, future of Microsoft security, kind of doing some really awesome things today. And we're going to be giving away 2 different gift cards of $100 today, just for having for saying thank you for coming to this thing. So we're going to do this spin, this really cool, little spin. We're just trying to jazz this up a little bit. But most importantly, we're also going to allow you for Q&A during the show. We do that during the show, but afterwards. So we're going to spend an extra 15 minutes to a half hour. We're going to stay on. Jonathan Davis and Aditya are being so kind to be able to do that, because you might have some real world questions that you want to ask them, latest stuff that Microsoft is seeing, or just different ideas. We want to allow you to be able to do that. We also want to say thank you so much. We know this takes an hour out of your time every session, every month, right? And it isn't always super convenient, right, to come to these, but we really appreciate it. We sincerely do. Tell your friends, send out the invites there. All right. So the other thing, we just put up a poll here really quickly. We're going to be doing polls throughout this as well. Please vote on that. It's cool stuff. We don't say who votes on what, right? But if you want to be pre-registered for the next shows, that'd be great. Okay, so that's just really the start of this. This is really fantastic. Why don't we go ahead and move into, I'm going to get into just the Crancer team really quickly. And I was just saying this to the group of guys today. It's amazing the work that they do. We used to always be frenetic pace before this. Everyone's like flying around with their hair on fire, like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Who's doing what? Who's got this? And an hour and a half ago, we got on a call and everything was done. We've got some really great people here. Just so proud of them. And I want to call them out. They're a really, really fantastic group of individuals. We've grown so fast, right? We've went from an idea back in 2019, end of 2018, right before the pandemic, with me and one other person. And now we got 12 full-time people here. It's just amazing. And we manage a lot of partners. Anyways, enough about us. We're really here to listen to the great speakers. So that's the Crancer Group team. So I want to just get into the agenda really quickly. This thing just popped up here. So, partner spotlight. We're going to introductions. We're going to get into just a second. Then we're going to do partner spotlight. I'm going to talk about 2 partners that we've been working with for a while, and it's a great partner-to-partner opportunity. We're going to start doing more of this. So we're going to show 2 of these infographics, really cool stuff, give you the opportunity. One is in security and one is in Power Platform. Then we're going to talk about Skykick Cloud Solutions. So we recently just partnered with Skykick. We're doing joint marketing with Skykick partners. So if you're interested in doing some marketing and trying to drive leads, contact your Skykick PDM. And they'll contact us. It's fully funded through their Microsoft Market Development Fund program. So if you want some leads, and you are fiscally responsible, call Aditya and say, can you get me in touch with Sherman, because he's going to put you and get you some leads, and we're going to funnel it and have Skykick fund it. So just a cool thing there. Then we're looking into the future with MS Security with Jonathan Davis here. He's from Microsoft. Man, we're so lucky to have both of these great speakers. And then we're just talking a little bit about Stratus Cloud Alliance, and then we're going to get into the Q&A function of it. So that's just the agenda here. So why don't we go ahead and move this forward. So our speakers, let's go ahead and introduce them really quick. I'm going to start with Aditya. Would you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your role at Skykick?
Sure. Hi. Thanks again, everyone. And thank you, Sherman, for giving us this opportunity to be here. I'm Aditya. I've been at Skykick now more than 3 years, and I am a recovering ex-Microsoftie as well. So, pretty familiar with this space, and it's been great to interact with Jonathan. I focus on alliance marketing activities. So as we sign up and start working with newer partners, helping make sure they have a go-to-market plan as it relates to the Skykick, technologies. So that's me, and we will talk more.
Fantastic. All right, Jonathan, would you mind introducing yourself and your role at Microsoft?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sherman. And hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me as well. I'm honored to be here and having an opportunity to talk to this amazing partner channel. My name is Jonathan Davis, and I am a security program manager on the business applications and platform team at Microsoft. So that organizational group takes care of mostly Power Platform and Dynamics 365. And my team is basically responsible for helping these various services stay secure. So this is, I'm really happy to be here and getting this feedback and interaction with our partners that are so important to that mission of ours.
Thank you so much. And Jonathan and I met actually at the Directions Conference about a month ago, and I sat in his presentation, and I know I'm probably building this up a little bit, but I will tell you, one of the best presentations I've seen in about 5 years, and I'm pretty critical with these. Microsoft loves to, when I was there, give us a 175 slide deck and say, hey, get this out to them in 30 minutes. They're gonna consume it all. And I would be like, oh my gosh, but Jonathan had just a very concise, very specific. So we're really lucky. And so we're bringing that to you today. And thanks again. We have a couple other speakers here that actually are going to be through infographics. And then we'll bring Jeff DeMaria on this towards the end and talk a little bit about Strato. So let's go ahead and get into Partner Spotlight, if we could go ahead and do that. Now, the Partner Spotlight, we're going to start with accountability, and just give me 1 second. This is a security firm that we work with. Brian Lamberger is the Chief Revenue Officer at Accountability. They're the #1 Sentinel partner in the country, and they are looking to partner. And we just want to go ahead and play this 1 minute. Let's go ahead and play Accountability. All right, so that's Accountability. Now, what's really cool about them is, we'll put up their oh, that's awesome. All right, very cool. So we just recently did this for them. We're actually going to be featuring them on the next show. Actually, we're going to talk about their business, how they built their business, what are the pitfalls, what to learn. That's going to be next month. Let's go ahead and get into Walter, and then we're going to go over to Skykick. So let's go ahead and get to the next one. This is the Bowen Group, Power Platform. Amazing, amazing organization. All right, fantastic. So look, I'm a big proponent of helping partners and helping people. I always want to give first before I ever ask for anything. We truly not try to sell on these shows, but I want to help partners out. So if you're interested in something like this, you can give us a contact. We actually create these for our partners. We actually create these in different ways to help them actually get into the marketplace and do other things to kind of separate themselves from their customers. So just enough about that, but let's go ahead and get in. Thank you for Walter. Great organization here. Let's go ahead and get into our next section, which is Skykick, the partner presentation with our good friend Aditya Mohan. Aditya, hey, bud. Hey, so, the first question I have for you really is, we all know, most of us know who Skykick is. Holy smokes. Remember when, back in the BPOS days and Office 365 came out and nobody really knew how to migrate, and Skykick was there to, I don't know if you say this the right way, but to be the savior of IT, right? But things have changed, right? We've kind of figured that out. And so tell us about Skykick and how you've evolved. Maybe we can kind of get into that if you don't mind kind of touching on that first.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Happy to be here and happy to talk through that. Yeah, to your point, job one was obviously help customers get to the cloud, right? And as we're going to talk rest of the day today, job two, or the most important one, is to make sure that they feel safe and secure in the cloud so they can continue, using and adopting it. So that was kind of our transition, right? As we looked at the industry as it evolved from, being this on-prem world, and now it's in the cloud, we started saying that, okay, well, what's next? Next step would be naturally to, have a secure solution, right? Security solution. And then what's next after that? Again, how do we automate some of the value that the partners can provide to their customers? So that's really been our journey. And that's kind of what I'm going to take you through today, because, a lot of the decisions we make are predicated upon the feedback and the learnings from our partners themselves. So just to kind of summarize quickly, right, Skykick, I think the most important thing to remember on this slide is that we have a business model that is 100% through partners. So everything that we do is we're working directly with our partners, right? So we have done that for 10 years. That was the guiding principle we had, and we have not wavered from that. So all the innovative products we create, they're built for our partners with real-time feedback from them. We have more than 30,000 MSPs that we work with, around the world, and each of their feedback is critical for us to do that. So as we talk about, one of the things that we have been doing as part of our product development is looking at some of the trends in the marketplace out there, right? So if you think about, what's been happening, there are two pieces to it, right? There is the aspect of making sure that an MSP, a partner, can be profitable. And then the other piece is how can we provide operational efficiency for them? So let's look at, again, the need to enable and protect, people, the new way they're working, right? All of us are here on a Teams call. Who would have thought that you would have 300, 400, 500 people on a Teams call and a Teams application which runs so smoothly, right? So there's been a lot of innovation on the software side, but also a lot of innovation and change management and the way how we interact with people. So Microsoft's empowering them, 10% increase in Microsoft, usage since the start of the pandemic. And, as Microsoft is driving a lot of incentives based on the usage of Teams. Again, if you start thinking about Azure usage, and as you look at the new programs in place for partners, it's all predicated upon how many people can get, using Teams. Now, at the same time, obviously, that's introduced a bunch of, risks, right? A lot of people are now sharing their work-related information on their cell phones, or they're working in different environments, which may or may not be, safe for them to be able to share information through. Right. And now what that has done is there's really a lack of a comprehensive data protection. So when we think about, risks to security, the first thing that comes to mind is around, making sure that your data is secure. Right. So what we did is we wanted to say, how can we address the customer security concerns and at the same time make sure MSPs are being profitable? And what's the best way to make money? The best way to make money is to have a recurring service, right? Recurring revenue, cha-ching, money is flowing in, right? And that was really how we started thinking about why don't we build a solution like a backup solution, which is again tied to your subscription. And again, as part of that, there's predictability. You're going to attract more customers because again, you're going to go to your customer and say, guys, we are selling you a value add solution. It's not just Microsoft 365, but it's a secure version of that. And how do we make sure that they feel the value of productivity as part of that? And that comes by moving to the cloud, right? So that's one aspect of it. How do we focus on, providing value to our partners from a profitability perspective? But at the same time, partners have said again and again to us that we really want to be efficient. We want applications which are easy to use. We want applications which are easy to administer. We want to take the overhead out of it, but at the same time, we want to make sure our customers feel that we're providing them value. So again, there's a proliferation of SaaS applications out there, right? How do you start managing multiple applications that the company has, right? Now, you've heard of the Great Resignation. A lot of people are moving on, and they have the retirement, new lifestyle. That's my goal as well in the next 2 years, right? But again, that's created a big shortage of, people out there for the organization. So they still want to do more with fewer people, right? And that's kind of where automation becomes a key aspect. And, Jonathan's going to talk a little bit more about some of the other opportunities around that. And then there is this, 3-letter word that I think a lot of us don't want to talk about right now, which is the NCE, right? But the NCE is here. It's here to stay, right? So what it's going to do, it's going to diminish the margins from the classic Microsoft applications. But again, that's where you need to start thinking about adding premium value to that, right? Now people are not going to steal money. People are going to make money. Right.
And that's awesome. I don't mean to interrupt you here. I was just kind of thinking because of the evolution of Skype, we've gone from, being the migration partner to now providing or helping partners figure out how they add something to their business, right? You kind of mentioned that, a new SaaS application. One thing you said about backup, I want to just touch on that just a tiny bit. We're working with a Skykick partner right now, Imazanti, right, over in New Jersey. To give them a shout out, they're just incredible partners out of New Jersey, incredible. And what we're doing in the CIE is we're adding the Skykick backup solution as the offer, okay? And all of a sudden we've changed. So can we talk a little bit about that? Because you've changed from this Office 365 migration partner to a SaaS application that's really helping partners build a more of a business, right? An MSP type of product. But tell us a little bit about the backup solution that you guys have, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So one of the things that, as I mentioned, is, a lot of partners that we started working with originally, they did not necessarily have that MSP mindset, right? They were, again, very transactional. They were really running, a lot of kind of projects, which were one and done, right? And again, for us, providing a backup solution really was the starting point for these partners to start thinking about being a managed service provider, right? Now they can start thinking about, ongoing value they're providing to their customer. It's not transactional anymore. And again, when we think about, Microsoft 365, which is like the de facto productivity solution, right? There are some things from a, data integrity and data security perspective, which are not covered there, right? So for instance, Microsoft mentions that, hey, when you subscribe to Microsoft 365, make sure that you have a reliable third-party backup solution, right? And again, reliable is a word, right? Limited retention was another, gap that was there. So what we said is, why don't we actually look to provide our partners a value add bundle solution, right? When customers buy that, they know there's peace of mind day one. They don't have to worry about what happens to my data. Is it secure? Is it not secure, right? And as part of that, the other thing that we wanted to make sure is that when we think about the margins and the margins are shrinking, the margins that you're getting from backup are actually going to help offset some of those, challenges you got. And again, as Teams growth has, increased so much, people are sharing data and video and everything else, the need to manage all that data is critical. And again, what we do is we provide unlimited backup and retention. So it's a one price. You can share as much as you want. You can save as much as you want, and you can go back and get any of that, when you need as part of that.
What's interesting about that too is, as we do these customer immersion experiences with our partners. So we get, 10 to 15 people attend every session. When we had an assessment offer, we were having trouble sometimes with conversion, getting people to bite. When we put in this backup and explained it in that there's that clause in the contract in Office 365 that says, we pushed that up, and all of a sudden you went from having 2 or 3 people raising their hands to now 6 or 7 saying, hey, I want to know more about this. Can I do that? So the reason why I'm bringing this up, okay, is we need to find ways to trigger the psychological need, right, from the customer to actually want to talk to you. Because it's hard. It's hard to get people to want to sit down with you. But if you can maybe present something that solves a problem that they don't even know about, right? Holy Moses, right? So just I kind of want to kind of throw that anecdotal, thought process in there. So that's one of the products. But now you have another one too, which I think is really neat, is Cloud Manager. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You want to just touch on that?
Exactly. So as I spoke about the journey, right, getting people to the cloud, making sure that they're secure in the cloud. How do we make sure, we manage them in the cloud, right? And that's really where the cloud manager solution comes in, right? For our MSPs, this is really a platform where they can start tracking and managing and monitoring all aspects of your customer's business. So when we think about security services, right, providing assessment reports, making sure that the MFA and all is turned on, providing remediation, services as part of that, right? So again, this is something that you house inside. This is a value add that you are providing to your customers. And from the customer perspective, they're just happy knowing that, you're using a state-of-the-art application to keep them safe, right? The second thing is you got Microsoft Teams, right? As we know, it's growing, but a lot of people are not deploying it properly, right? There is a process to go through that. Are they making sure the data is secure? But more importantly, how are they managing it? Are they driving adoption within the organization? What does it take for everyone to start, sharing and collaborating and being proactive as part of it? In fact, we have seen a 30% reduction in email since Teams has been out there, right? But again, are people using it the most efficiently? So that's the other service you can provide. And then finally, it's all about making sure that you are increasing your efficiency when it comes to supporting to the help desk, right? All the stuff that you do from a help desk management perspective, it's automated. You don't have your high ticketed technical people having to solve some frontline tickets. You can actually drive a lot of that efficiencies through automation. So really excited about this product, and really looking for a lot of MSPs to kind of make their lives a lot more efficient, productive, and drive automation into their DNA.
Love it. Well, thank you, Aditya. Now, how do we get a hold of you? How do we what would be next steps if they want to? Wait, right before I say that, hold on a second. Right before I say that, I thought there was a really awesome poll that we just did. And actually, I'd like to call out, let me just go back up there just a bit of it. It's very interesting. The poll was, what backup solution do you currently sell to end users? 20% said, I leave that up to the customer. 33% said they're using Skykick. 26% is I'm using another service, right? And then 20% said, please send me more info. So we'll get in touch with you.
Right.
But it's good to see this, right? Because now we kind of start understanding, kind of how people are working together, right? So on that. Now the next one is, did you know that MSSP valuations are 7 times that of MSPs? I want to touch on that. And in just 1 second, I sit with a venture capital group of investors once a month. It's a killer lunch. Let me just tell you. I mean, I get to see so much, and we were talking about valuation. MSPs are going. It used to be 4 to 5 to 1 on MSPs. Now it's actually 2 to 1 on the valuation. Think about that on revenue. But really, on an MSSP, they're looking at 7 times revenue. Okay, think about that. And the reason why, I mean, obviously, is you're doing a lot less heavy lifting. You're not managing the whole information systems. You're managing a subset which has high margins, a lot lower, more utilization rate of your current resources, less resources to do more. Hey, if you don't have a product right now in the market that you're pushing, okay, that's really helping you build an MSSP product, you're falling behind. And that's really why we have these shows here. We keep talking about this. We want to bring value to you. That's what's happening today. And I want to make sure that you guys are on track with that. So, okay. So now, but sorry about that. How do we contact you?
Yeah, this is what you do. You take your, fancy little cell phone out there, scan this, and you should be able to send an email directly to a contact, or you can remember my name, aditya.mohan@skykick.com. I want to leave you with this one thought, right? I mean, no one really cares about backups, but everyone cares about restores, right? So it's like, so again, keep that in mind as you think about what your, security or posture is. And also remember, when security comes in, the first thing people care about is data, right? Can I get that funny GIF that I sent to someone in the email? Can I get that back? So with that said, let's jump into the next part of this presentation.
All right, man. Hey, thanks so much. And so Aditya's going to be part of the show too, so we're keeping him involved in there. So Jonathan, thank you so much for coming today, man. This is awesome.
Man, that is a tough act to follow, honestly, but it was preaching to the choir. I was cheering you, Aditya, so thank you for ramming on those brilliant messages.
Yeah.
I just want to say before we start that honestly, Skykick is an example of why the Microsoft ecosystem is as healthy as it is. It's honestly partners like you, so thank you for that. Excellent.
Yep, great, thank you.
Awesome. So 2 things here. We got a presentation, we got questions and answers. Come to the Q&A, start putting some stuff in the chat window if you want. but we're going to get through this, and then we're doing Q&A afterwards. So and it's going to be a little bit longer, but if you want to stick around, please, man, we're going to be so happy to do this. So let's just get right into it, Jonathan. What is this first is third principle of cybersecurity? I think we should start there first.
Yeah.
Right? First is third, or not. I thought it was first and third, but not. What is first is third?
Yeah, that actually is something that came from my colleagues in the privacy world when we were implementing GDPR in 2017, actually. And that principle basically just says that whatever that we as Microsoft do for ourselves, we should, where possible, make available and share with our partners and customers, the third parties, right? I mean, Microsoft's a partner-driven organization, so we're kind of, honestly, we're only as secure as you and our customers are in using our products. And I said this when we met, that I see us as one blue team, right? We're one set of defenders, and we're up against this very, very powerful set of adversaries, and we kind of need to help each other. And one thing I want to say to the partner community here is that you need to help each other. Microsoft collaborates with security with our biggest rivals every day, and I want to encourage you to do the same. Set aside rivalries, work with each other, especially in communities of practice around specific products or ecosystems, like if you're in Power Platform or Business Central or whatever. In Dynamics and Power Platform, we often get very, very good security hardening ideas from partners like yourselves and great vulnerability reports from partners like yourselves. So please step up and be security champs out there. I hope that covers it.
Yeah, that's great. So now, what do you like as you start thinking about, right? I mean, why are they attacking? I mean, what are they doing? And why are they motivated to do that?
Yeah, perennial question today. So there are going to be security nerds in the house, and they're going to roast me for this massive oversimplification. So, I mean, you can basically loosely group the bad guys into 4 classes of adversary. And this is not particularly accurate, it's not complete, but it's going to help us frame this discussion today. You have kind of script kiddies, which is, it's just a term that comes from the old days when these kind of unskilled attackers used to take attack tools from others. And they basically operate in collectives, like Anonymous. And their motivations are hacking either for personal, irritation, like they get irritated with someone on a game server, or because they want to steal someone's photos, or hacktivism. They got a political motivation. Then we got criminal gangs who are hacking for financial gain, and these are sort of cyber criminals. They make up about 80% of attackers out there. Then we got nation states. Nation states are waging war at the moment. They're doing it for strategic intimidation and so on. Espionage, and in some cases like North Korea for foreign currency and sanctions busting. And then we got terrorists. And luckily terrorists make up a very small number and are not very successful in the cyber realm. So at Microsoft we worry about all of these attackers, but the most dangerous are what we would describe as highly skilled and highly focused attackers. This is what the industry tends to call APTs, or advanced persistent threats. And as the name suggests, these are extremely capable and disciplined and well-resourced, patient and focused adversaries. And I think the thing which surprises people is that they look like you and me. They're ordinary knowledge workers. They work in offices, they've got badges, they've got financial targets, they've got projects, they've got bonuses. And there was a leak recently of the Conti ransomware crew. It's a criminal APT. And it really revealed the banality of this particular evil. They were griping with their bosses about time off and the poor tooling that they were getting from various people. But yeah, Microsoft, we track dozens of APTs. Most of them are state level APTs or large cyber criminal APTs. And but I mean, on that point, just thinking if we were talking to today, for most people in this call, cyber criminals are your biggest threat, especially fraudsters and ransomware crews. Probably, like things like business email compromise are huge. There was a terrible story in the Wall Street Journal just last week about United Structures of America, a company out of Houston. They got ransomed. They paid the ransom. They couldn't get their files. They got ransomed again. They went bust. And I read that 1/3 of organizations actually that are affected by ransomware closed down either permanently or at least temporarily. So, $6.9 billion lost to cybercrime last year. And I mean, here's a sobering thought for people in this call. There's 90 or so people and a few hundred on LinkedIn. Statistically, it's almost certain that some of you have got attackers in your network right now preparing a ransomware attack. Anyway, I think
that's interesting. I was reading the other day that there is a couple of universities in the US which shut down because they could not afford to pay the ransom, and when they did, they still couldn't get the data back. So they lost all the registration, and they lost the kids' grades, which actually might not be a bad thing for me. But it's real and it's rampant, and it's really impacting people directly, the people that we know.
Yeah, it's terrible. There's no honor amongst these thieves. Honestly, yeah, it's a nightmare out there.
I know a couple MSPs. I know one that $300 million MSP. I'm not going to say names, but a monster. Email completely down for quite a long time. I know another $60 million MSP. So the reason why I'm putting these numbers, I'm not trying to call out names, is that even if you're grown, even if you're that big, and you're that big as an MSP, you're a target. Everyone's a target. It's interesting. I'm getting fished so much lately. I just got one today too. Oh man, it was really beautiful. But the problem is I don't have an HR team at the Crancer Group, so I knew right away. But man, did they really make it really beautiful? I mean, I was like, well, this is cool, but little did I know I don't have. We have an HR team. Let's call my brother up. Hey man, who did we hire? But
just to that happens.
So
go ahead.
Let's get into some of the bad news. Let's kind of dig deep there now. Now I know it seems negative, but hold on. We're gonna have good news after that. Okay. So let's dive in a little bit of the bad news to kind of help. Like I know there's a few different sections or two different pillars you want to talk about. Let's get into that.
Yeah. Okay. So normally, as you know, when I give this talk about this topic, I normally start with the bad news and then move to the good news. But I'm not sure we have time for the good news. So I'll just start off by saying that what follows is going to seem like a relentless parade of defeat and collapse, but actually things are much better. I mean, just this week, Amy Hogan-Burney, who's from Microsoft Digital Crime Unit, was announcing the takedown of this big infrastructure for a major Iranian threat actor called Borium. And this comes on top of some big takedowns of things like Emotet and TrickBot last year. And indictments and sanctions are really starting to bite in the sense that they're changing attacker behavior. Legislators are rallying and they're coming out with good laws and like the cyber executive order, which we'll talk about later. And honestly, individuals and companies like yourselves are wisening up. And and security and service platform providers like Microsoft are also pouring investment and innovation into this space. And of course, we see companies like Sidekick, really, and this huge security ecosystem that's stepping up and having a big impact. So look, now that I said that, I also want to say that we're in a terribly exposed situation as a civilization, right? Software has eaten the world, and we're, as an industry and frankly, as a civilization, we're scrambling to catch up. We have this onslaught, extremely highly incentivized and highly skilled attackers. And I mean, most people think about cybercrime in terms of, cyber in terms of cybercrime, like material financial harms. And it's true that it costs billions. I just said $6 billion in 2021, but there's other things. Like, for example, we've had some really big near misses. If you think about WannaCry and NotPetya in 2017, they caused massive damage to Maersk, the biggest shipping conglomerate in the world, right? In the UK's hospital system, at least one NHS trust was taken out. And when you think about Evergreen, where one ship blocked the Suez Canal for 7 days and the global supply chains nearly exploded, imagine what would happen if Maersk's entire shipping register had been ransomed. Mark Krasinovich, who's the CTO of Azure, he talks about GSIFIs, these globally significant financial institutions. And these are the too big to fail kind of banks. Now, many of them are hosting on major public clouds. When Lehman Brothers, one of them went down in 2008, it kicked off the liquidity crisis, the big crash. Now imagine if 10 or 15 or all of them were put out of business. I mean, software is driving every aspect of civilization, and we have unfortunately given an awful lot of power to bad actors to really cause mayhem now. And the number of systems is exploding, and the threats are exploding, and the consequences of failures are more severe. And frankly, the number of defenders is staying static or growing too slowly. Microsoft is comparatively privileged, right? We have billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars to spend on security. But what I describe as the civilians out there, you folks, the normies, the small to medium-sized businesses that make up 80% of the economy. I mean, you are terribly exposed to contemporary cyber threats, and it's showing. I mean, it's a relentless parade of breaches and ransomware and people's life savings stolen and bullying and blackmail of children. And I mean, from a Microsoft perspective, what we're trying to do now is to provide safe harbors for companies and individuals on our platforms and our cloud systems, because that's we believe is probably the best way that we can at least push back against this. And it's been a bad year for us too. I mean, we've had a lot of very severe attacks on us. I mean, you've heard of SolarWinds and Hafnium, but that was actually also good news for Microsoft, because Zero Trust worked. We had attackers with some very, very high-powered tools to work against us, and they didn't get to customer data. They didn't manage to pivot effectively. The things which we have out there, our bug bounty program, our transparency and work with partners, and our own eating our own security dog food, has really done a lot of good stuff. Sherman, do you want me to do a quick sort of flyby of trends? Just like for 5 minutes, or
yeah, I think so too. Just
okay.
one other one. Yeah, I do. One other one, Colonial, the oil, right? Remember the oil thing that happened?
Yes.
That was a firmware attack.
Yes, if we get a chance, I'd love to talk about that. In fact, in my little flyby, I'm going to touch on that directly because I think that's very material. Okay,
yeah,
I'll continue.
So why don't you cover some of the trends real quick, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper.
Okay, perfect. So I think the first thing is hacktivism. Like this, we'll start with the easy stuff. So a thing which we have observed in Microsoft in the last year is the return of hacktivism. I mean, we saw this sort of die out in 2011 when Lulzsec got arrested, right? And Anonymous kind of disappeared. And then in 2021, we saw Twitch getting attacked, and then we saw the Belarusian government getting attacked. And some folks thought, well, this is just an aberration. It's a revival of the excuse of hacktivism, because attack somebody and then post hoc they think of a reason why they deserve to get hacked and they call it hacktivism. But the war in Ukraine has supercharged hacktivism now. Ukraine has got this volunteer cyber army. And we also saw the rise and fall of this Lapsus crew, who appeared to be teenagers, really, and they breached a lot of organizations, including Microsoft, with very simple techniques like bribing vendors to get initial access. I mean, thankfully, in our case, they were able to do nothing. The CDOC, the Microsoft the sort of SOC, picked them up quickly and kicked them out. But we also saw another new thing, which I think will be interesting for you guys, and that is we saw an open source maintainer backdoor their own component, which was Node IPC, to attack Russian and Belarusian IPs. Now, we've seen supply chain attacks against open source components, which make up most of software today. But we've never seen a maintainer actually backdoor their own thing, which really kicked off an operational ethical conundrum for us in Microsoft. Okay, cybercrime, it's the same old with cybercrime. They are successfully attacking all sectors of everything, critical infrastructure, governments, businesses, and the profits are exploding. I mean, this is a low-cost, high-profit business, right? And they're also working for governments increasingly. They're conducting espionage, and they're actually perfecting their tactics. And you could actually think of many of the more advanced sort of cybercrime gangs as mercenary special forces or privateers that work with state-sponsored kind of governments as licensed pirates. But because I want to balance with some positivity, we're also seeing some good things like more transparency. So victims are coming forward. They used to hide it because they were embarrassed, but now it humanizes the attacks and it draws attention to the consequences. And the second thing is that the governments are recognizing this threat and they're taking appropriate action. They're passing laws, they're creating cross-governmental task force, they're allocating resources, and they're seeking out private sector help, frankly, from people like Microsoft. Like Satya Nadella was called into the White House to talk to President Biden about this. And I just want to interject one thing. Most of these attacks fail. And it's crucial that we keep remembering that by improving our defenses, we increase the failure rates. And that's really what the task is. We've got to raise the costs and the failure rates of these attackers. Sherman, I think you mentioned that you wanted to go into nation states, so maybe I'm going to skip over that and we'll talk about that later and move on to IoT, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, let's well, let me ask you this. Let's go into, AI is a big thing. Artificial intelligence, right? Yeah. Artificial intelligence, machine learning. And I was just thinking, my group, we created a chatbot, right? And we use AI and ML, I know, but it's gone from 3,000 questions to 7,000 questions. Very interesting. We trained it, and it's really gotten some really cool stuff. That's just scratching the surface. That's the tiniest of but can we get into actually, and Reva, if you can pull up that slide, get into the machine learning aspect. Help us understand how that's maybe being used, or if that's an issue right now that we should be worried about.
Sure. I mean, look, ML is a tool, and as such, it's pretty agnostic in terms of who it helps. There's no doubt that it's being used extensively and very effectively defensively. I mean, it's one of the great hopes of the security industry, and it is having a huge impact in a vast array of products and security techniques. It's also being used increasingly by attackers. I mean, I'm hazy on the details, but I believe that Microsoft has observed attackers using advanced ML for target selection and large data analytics and disinformation analysis. What I do know is that the Microsoft Digital Defense Report, which comes out every year, they said that in the last 3 years, pretty much every major company, but like the really big ones like Google and Amazon, ourselves, Tesla, everyone has had their ML systems tricked or evaded or misled. And about 30% of cyber attacks are now estimated to involve some kind of data poisoning or model theft or adversarial kind of samples. I mean, the Washington Post has a long piece this week on the next cybersecurity crisis, poisoned AI. And, just on that, most people think, when they think of ML attacks, they inevitably think of poisoning attacks. Poisoning attacks are when an attacker contaminates the training model, to get an unintended result. So you can classically think about it where someone, trying to train your model to recognize cats and someone says that a hippo was a cat. Or there's a famous example from medicine where the AI started to see the ruler, which was next to skin cancer samples, as the cancer, because all the skin cancer samples had the ruler and the AI picked up that one. There are other kinds of attacks like evasion attacks, where the network is sort of fed and what's called an adversarial example. This stuff is really, membership inference, mode stealing. It's for people with tall foreheads, honestly, and it's kind of a little bit above my level. But what I would say is that for those of you that are facing specifically adversarial ML, Microsoft has a brilliant open source tool called Counterfeit, which really helps you assess risks, and it kind of allows to analyze your AI and ML. And we use Counterfeit inside Microsoft as part of our AI red teaming operations. And another thing is that we have this, in response to this, we kind of, this huge growth of AI and ML, we launched this responsible AI initiative in Microsoft. And part of that was, there's ethical parts, which is like ensuring that social biases are not incorporated into ML models. But from a security side, a substantial part of that was actually teaching security folks like myself in Microsoft, how do we threat model machine learning based situations? So, all of you out there, what I would say is pay attention to the stuff. If you have ML AI, and who doesn't have it these days, then I think you should learn how to threat model those models and AI, because it is a hugely increasing attack vector against all businesses. I hope that was not a short answer, sorry. But
so Jonathan, as part of that, thinking about that, right? So as MSPs or partners who are on this call, right? What is your recommendation then? Should they be monitoring the AI ML usage at their clients and have some, mechanisms to be able to give them a heads up? Or how does that, all the offerings that Microsoft's providing, how does that translate into partner usage and opportunities?
I mean, the short and simple answer would be absolutely. I truly think that everybody should be paying close attention here. It's an underattended area, which means it's an area of opportunity for attackers. When we talked about those poisoning attacks, people are going in and getting loans and bamboozling insurance and trading algorithms and all manner of things for financial benefit and for trolling, because people have thought, well, no one's going to attack this, or this is very obscure. But, in cybersecurity, ML and data scientist roles are exploding, and we're seeing the same thing in attackers. They're hiring the best brains out there to go after these models. So please be aware of it. And reach out to me. I put my email in the chat if you want me to route you to the Microsoft resources on this, because there's a lot.
Yeah, this really seems like a differentiator that MSPs can go to market with, right? As you come up with a portfolio of new things and making people aware of it. Great.
I think Sentinel, that is a huge product right now. We're seeing such an uptick in interest as we do the CIEs on Sentinel, and people are like, wow. And the great, one of the things I like about it, it just works. It's already built in to work with everything in Microsoft that it works fast, and it's based on consumption too, right? And how much data you're ingesting. But man, oh man, if you're not in Sentinel right now, I would give it a go. Aditya, I think you were going to take the next question, right?
Yeah, I was. One of the things I was thinking about is that when we spoke last week, right, there was all this discussion around nation state threats and what's happening in the world, and it's changing in front of our eyes, and you sitting out there in Sweden caught in like those two worlds, right? You're like stones throw away from all the craziness, right? So tell us what are we seeing, and how can we do something around it?
Okay. Thanks. It's a super interesting area, actually. And I'm in Denmark, which is a NATO country.
Oh,
so we got a target on. We're not neutral. What have we seen? Nation state actors have been very busy, as always. And they've had, honestly, in the last year, they've had some big successes. We had SolarWinds, which was the Nobelium APT-28 or Russian intelligence. We had these huge attacks against on-premise exchange servers by Hafnium, which is a state actor, APT-10, China. We have some amazing Microsoft, we have this Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center, or MISTIC, and the Digital Security Unit, DSU, and they kind of keep an eye on nation state actors. And what they're saying is that they're continuing to focus on mostly government agencies, intergovernment agencies, non-governmental organizations and think tanks, right? For the traditional thing which these people go after, which is mostly espionage and surveillance objectives. And normally the victims of this have got something which is interesting to the attackers. Like under COVID, we saw them attacking private enterprises for vaccine research. Like we're seeing a lot of attacks against unpatched third-party software on premises, right? That's becoming more pervasive. It's very easy to exploit by nation states. So, people that are postponing patching, or they've got dark IT. I mean, you alluded to it earlier, Aditya. These are unknown assets, or sort of outdated, unsupported software. They're really leaving themselves vulnerable. So, I mean, this is a push. It sounds like a commercial push, but it's actually a security push for people to move to the cloud. And Mystic, as I said, is focusing on the nation states, because the problem that we have is that the tactics, techniques, and procedures, the TTPs that the nation states use, the little guys watch them and they learn them and they start to use them. It prompts all these downstream actors to start adopting the same thing. So we learn from the big fish and we quickly sort of build up mitigations. I mean, by the way, if you out there are targeted as a Microsoft customer or partner by a nation state, we will issue what's called a nation state notification, an NSN, to customers or partners. You don't want one of these, but we'll help you if you do get one of these. And over the last 3 years, we've issued over 20,000, nearer to 30,000 of these. So they are very active. I mean, one last thing on this is that the nation state activity is much more likely to target organizations outside of critical infrastructure. And I think that this is very interesting. This is, 90% of notifications that we serve were outside of critical infrastructure like electricity or water. Now this is Jonathan talking about Microsoft, but what it tells me is that nation state operators have some norms and red lines. Critical infrastructure is still off limits because it's kinetic, and especially countries like the United States have said quite openly, if you go after this stuff, it's war. So, and speaking of which, the United States is still overwhelmingly the most targeted country by nation state actors. Although with Ukraine, that's probably overtaken it recently, and the usual ones like Israel and Iran are also under a lot of attack. So yeah, that's the nation state kind of summary. Wow.
That's sobering. Holy Moses. Holy Moses. We also talked about IoT. There's an explosion in IoT devices, explosion in data analytics and streaming. Can you touch on a little bit of that? And then we're going to get into the future of Microsoft security. And the last section we're going to do, everyone here, I just want to make sure that you know this. We're going to do personal stuff, some really amazing personal ideas that are going to come up. And then we have some giveaways.
If you don't do the personal stuff, none of this resonates, right? It has to, make the personal connection for the companies care about it.
Right. Well, look, I'll burn through IoT. I mean, in the last year, we've seen a huge number of attacks against especially legacy operational technologies, OT and Internet of Things, IoT devices. I mean, this week, the operational technology is in the news because of this OT iceball brouhaha. Like, what happened was some researchers found 56 vulnerabilities in a whole bunch of OT things in a whole bunch of companies. And this is big news because these OT devices are in industrial control systems and health, hospitals and water management. I mean, they literally are the substrate of civilization. I mean, this is the core technology that modern life depends on, that the water gets pumped and the traffic lights work on. And many of these are lagging in the adoption and use of modern security. I mean, that report that I just alluded to talked about them being insecure by default. And we're seeing attackers probe and succeed here. Like you mentioned it, Colonial Pipeline, water, energy utilities, they've all been attacked, and the disruptions from these are profound, and the impact is very broad. I mean, in IoT, we have what I would describe as a grim constellation of issues. There is an enormous and rapidly growing attack surface. I mean, there's billions of devices already, and there's millions coming online every month. Devices are often cheap, and the market economies force them to be cheap, and the software security is often an afterthought. So many of them can't be updated over the air. So what you effectively have is millions of little unpatched Linux instances plugged into networks, and they just end up in botnet swarms or as entry vectors for attackers. And that's why we end up with headlines like, a casino got hacked by its aquarium. IoT is hard to defend. Attackers, they've got physical access, they can bamboozle sensors. They have, IoT, I think, is one of the hard problems of security. And Microsoft in this area is pouring a massive amount of effort. Like some of our best and brightest are focused on this. And this is also true of the industry at large, right? I should note that there's also some super interesting IoT security devices out there. I mean, one example is a former boss of mine introduced me to last week, is something like Guard Dog AI. Now, I haven't really had a chance to play with it, but this is an example of many of what I've seen. It's a device that you plug into your network, and it does this ML-backed security detection and remediation. So, and at Microsoft, we've got Azure Sphere, which is our whole Azure-based IoT security suite, which is frankly amazing. And this might surprise some of you. We have our own IoT Linux distro, Mariner Linux. Yes, Microsoft ships its own distro. So I don't know, hell has probably frozen over somewhere because of that. So yeah, that's the IoT story in a nutshell. Grim, but getting slowly a little bit better.
I have no sympathy against the casinos getting hacked and losing their money, though. They have taken a lot of my money.
Indeed. Yeah.
So Aditya, do you want to take it to the next one, I think?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So again, going back to, the future, right? Where are you guys headed with all this stuff, right? What are the trends? Give us something into the looking glass. But I think also, how are you kind of including the partners as you think about the services and the roadmap for the future, right?
Yeah, look, this is a huge topic. It's a little bit above my pay grade. So, but I'll venture. Look, there's a few things I can speak with some assurance. One thing is that the security establishment in Microsoft is genuinely a learning organization, because we kind of have to be. We're under constant attack. And one of the things we do is we kind of learn from attacker behavior, and not just the successful breaches, but the kind of near misses. And not just for us, but for all of our vast array of customers and partners, and also from our industry rivals with who we collaborate with on security. So as a consequence of having this enormous purview, this spins up a lot of literally dozens of security programs, right? And where we sort of anticipate threats and we respond to threats. And these are organized by OKRs, and they kind of match to areas of risk. And honestly, we adjust them almost in real time, depending on threat intel. And and they're sort of divided up into the three traditional buckets we use in Microsoft security, which is sort of protect, detect, and respond. So we've recently wrapped up a slew of fairly major hardening initiatives based on the last tranche of learnings from incidents and experience, and and best practices. And these are the same things that we've been droning on to our partners and customers about, and what we've been providing sort of technologies for them to do. This is back to the first is third thing. So examples of zero trust, which we keep going on about, but it really is a critical operational philosophy. Hardening identities and using alternative identities and using multi-factor authentication. Everywhere, no exceptions, no excuses, everything, all accounts have to be locked down like that. We have just gone through a big effort to absolutely mandate and fully enforce 100% use of secure admin workstation. Some of you would know it as a privileged access workstation, especially hardened one-use only devices, which we use for accessing prod. We've had a big push, zero tolerance on ectopic secrets, like credential elimination, people putting secrets in code or in OneNotes or whatever. We've big push to move to managed identities away from using certificates. Network isolation, we don't want any of our control plane traversing the public internet. We've gone very, very big on detection technologies, especially, and this is an interesting area actually, is breach and attack simulation or adversary emulation. Which we can touch on later. And then, of course, we've got eviction capabilities. Like we need to do large-scale eviction at the push of a button. So, some of the big bets have also been prompted by legislation. So what we normally get is the government says you got to do something, and we as Microsoft say, you know what, it's a good idea. We're going to go beyond that. So the U.S. government, for example, with the Cyber Executive Order, mandated that all contractors and vendors have to have a bunch of security requirements around SDL and software bill of materials, or SBOM, and CI/CD hardening. Deployment pipelines. And we said, fine, we'll make this a requirement for all of our services, not just for the contractors. And it was the same with the EU data boundary. We say, this is good stuff. We're going to implement it globally, and we then fold it into our customer promises. So that's coming down the pipeline. And there it's things like, customer managed keys or bring your own key and lockbox, where we explicitly have to, you as a customer need to give us explicit permission before we can JIT or just in time elevate into your data. And in terms of other things, I'm bearish about zero trust. I mentioned that already. Zero trust is not tools and technology. You don't have to buy a product for zero trust. You just need to design an operational principle. Our task now is to make these principles sort of accessible and where possible automatic. And then that brings me to a big theme in Microsoft, which is what I could describe as true secure by default. Like a recurring theme for us is just baking in security. Secure by default should be ironclad. You shouldn't have to read docs to secure yourself. You shouldn't. What you should need to do is read the docs to figure out how to degrade your security posture, then jump through 50 warnings. We don't think about fire security or electrical security anymore. We've got retardants and fire escapes and stuff like that, and trained responders. And security needs to get to exactly the same space. As an industry, And as security leaders, we need to make it that security just works, and it needs to be the path of least cost, and it needs to be the path of least resistance. And then, one more thing which I just want to touch on is automation and AI, because no security person would consider me respectable if I didn't go here. As I said repeatedly, automation is often driven by ML and AI. It's a huge area of hope. It's a huge opportunity. In Microsoft, we're doing an awful lot of work on this. We really are. I mean, I talked about breach and attack simulation. Let me tell you this, because I think this is cool. One of the most effective security practices, also for changing the business's mind, is red teaming or offensive security or penetration testing. Right? You actually hack, and then you bring in the results and you say, guess what, we hacked you, but we're the good guys. Now, one of the things, the problem is that these people are very rare and they're very overstretched. Like red teams can never cover all of Microsoft, for example. So one of the things which we see a lot of promise in is breach and attack simulation. You can think of it like Netflix's Chaos Monkey. You basically unleash these bots in your environment, and those bots have attack campaigns, which are programmed, TTPs, which are fed in real time from threat intelligence to emulate the behavior of attackers. And that gives you this ability to detect vulnerabilities and detection gaps and remediate them before the real attackers come. And what we want to do is give customers the ability to actually tweak the stuff based on MITRE or your threat models or your attacker profiles, so that you've got this constant bot that is being vigilant in your environment. And I think that's the kind of automation that's going to be transformational.
No, I think
we can talk for 4 hours, man. Sorry.
No, but I'm saying that the customers, the thing they worry about most is about security, because they're like, well, we can figure out everything else, but we just can't keep up with all the security stuff, right? So from an MSP perspective, I guess the opportunity is to say, guys, work with us. We've got the best tools out there. Microsoft's doing so much about security. This is the right choice for you, right? And to the point around automation, we have been gung-ho on automation as well with the Cloud Manager solution out there, because that is really where a lot of this is going to differentiate a lot of the partners from other ecosystems.
Yeah, we hear this a lot across the security industry. People are bamboozled. They're confused. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen. There's too much information, and they don't know where to start. And they really need partners like yourselves to mediate or intermediate and help them figure it out. And I think the big appeal is go back to basics. I mean, some of the personal security stuff which we're going to talk about applied to businesses is going to move people a long way. Yeah.
So let's and thanks so much for that. And look, for the rest of you, we're going to be going over a little bit. However, please stick around if you want to ask more questions specifically about looking into the future. Just stick around, and because you're going to ask candid questions to Jonathan and Aditya. So, all right, right before we do this, I want to get into personal. Some of the personal stuff is blown away. Reva, can you pull up the spin of Wheel of Awesomeness? We want to give away 2 gift cards right here, since we still have 74 people on. Yeah, there we go. That's some reactions, right? Okay, give us reactions if you want us to give away some money here. We're just doing it the first time. We don't usually use this gimmick, but we got this new tool, which is amazing. By the way, I love this tool. It's kind of fun. All right, go ahead and spin it out. Let's go see if who won today on this one. Let's see. And what do we have there? George Miller. Hey, George, welcome. Good job, brother. We got to send you a gift card. We do it one more time. Let's do it one more time before we get into personal. I know we're doing this here. Let's go ahead and get it one more time and see who else gets a $100 gift card. It's kind of fun. I got this website just a while ago. And I'm like, wow, we got to use this in our show. Let's do this. Let's see who's going to get this. All right, Ryan Toole. Fantastic. Douglas, yeah, you were so cool. All right, fantastic. Good job. Okay, now this is kind of cool, because now that you just won $100, you might want to use this to implement on some of your personal security stuff that we're going to talk about now. Okay, so there's a reason I did it right there. So, Jonathan, let's go ahead and get into the personal stuff. This is really, and pay attention, everyone, because you want to use some of these ideas right away in your stuff. And we're going to pull them up here in a second. We got to get back into the things. But Jonathan, go for it, brother.
No worries. Folks, I need to do the classic corporate ask covery thing here and say that I'm speaking as an enthusiast and not really an expert. This is more the personal Jonathan speaking. This is not like official Microsoft doctrine, just to be clear. But look, the first thing which I'd say is that you should learn how to threat model yourself and your family, right? You should be asking, like, what digital assets are you trying to defend? Is it your identity? Is it your reputation? Is it your bank account? Is it your crypto wallet? Or probably not, because it's worthless. Is it your photos? And I think that, the threats, for example, they might not be from an attacker, but they might be from a bad disk or from a house fire or, something like that. So anyway, let's go through a little quick list. the first thing which I would say is be very careful of links and attachments, right? You can enjoy the internet, but you should browse with a very healthy skepticism. I mean, unsolicited links and attachments are a huge attack vector. You should probably authenticate via a separate channel. For example, if Granny sends you a link saying, "Oh my God, your nudes," it's maybe best idea to sort of contact Granny and ask her, "Was that really you?" And if you have to click on that link, if you're so thing on Windows, you've got Windows Sandbox, which is a fully incorporated little VM where you can use as your own little malware research place to detonate a link. And if you're on a different platform, you can use a VM if you absolutely have to do that. So, obviously in this category, it should be obvious to you, but maybe not to your 11-year-old kid. Don't use illegal software and sketchy game mods like that. That's another ripe source of compromise. Protect your authentication with multi-factor authentication. I mean, if you take away one thing from this, please, this is the one. Where possible, use multi-factor authentication. There's a brilliant site called twofactorauth.org, and it allows you to see how you can set up multi-factor or two-factor authentication on every service that you can think of, and it's got a link to the settings page where you can set it up. Any multi-factor is better than none, but if you can, if possible, avoid phone and SMS, especially in the US where SIM swapping is still quite easy to do. It's a big problem. That's where someone convinces a phone company to give them your number, and then many people have had their wallets, crypto wallets, emptied by that attack. So ideally use a hardware token like a YubiKey. That's the gold standard for multi-factor. You need to keep a spare one somewhere in a bank vault or in your office. Always have a spare. And if you can't use a YubiKey or if it's too much for you, then use an authenticator app like Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator. But a caution for you, back it up. Google Authenticator in particular will not back up your seeds if you restore to a different phone. So if you lose your phone and you back up from iCloud, those MFA things are gone. So yeah, and then there's some of the tricks, which are I don't think we've got time to cover everything. So another thing is staying up to date. I mean, this is obvious. This is true for organizations. It's true for individuals. Make sure that you promptly apply security updates from official sources only. I mean, if you get a pop-up on a website, then don't do that. But go to Windows Update or whatever. Now, when Chrome or Edge has that little update icon in the top right-hand corner, please just update and restart. There have been a whole bunch of Chromium zero days which have been causing mayhem out there. It's the same on your iPhone or your Android. When you see the little red dot, please update it. Same for your personal computers and routers and your TVs. Minimum once a month, you should be updating all of your software in your homes. And I think this is extremely important. I mean, my personal routine, like on Windows, one thing you can do, you can script this on Windows Scheduler, but run Windows Update, ideally on the day after Patch Tuesday, so the second Wednesday of every month. Then go to Windows Store and update those store apps, and then finally you can run Winget. Winget is a package manager for Windows on Windows 10 and 11. Winget upgrade --all, and unbelievably, it will update a huge amount of software that Windows Update doesn't get to. This should be the thing that all of you do. There's also commercial tools like Ninite that does something similar. On Mac OS, you've got Mac Updater, and on Linux, of course, just use a package manager. But please update your stuff all the time, every time. One other thing which you should do about halfway through is you should uninstall unused software and extensions. I mean, the more stuff that you have, the more ways attackers have to attack you. It's called your attack surface, right? So reduce your attack surface by uninstalling unused software. I mean, modern operating systems are extremely secure, but they're often attacked through the software that's installed on them, right? And this is particularly true of browser extensions and add-ons. Modern browsers are rock solid, but the browser add-ons are a weak spot. So what attackers sometimes do, people don't know this, they hack extension developers or they buy popular extensions, and then they put malware or crypto miners into them. And they make it a deal when they buy it that this is an NDA, that they can't actually talk about this. So I advise my friends and families, I mean, there's an exception here. I think you should use an ad blocker and privacy extensions, things like uBlock Origin or whatever. I mean, malvertising, like malignant or malicious advertising, is a very big source of compromise. I mean, the NSA and the CIA actually have ad blockers on their border gateways. One thing which is great for blocking stuff, and since we're all nerds here, is Pi-hole. Pi-hole is a little Raspberry Pi-based DNS ad and malware blocker. You can just install it and plug it into your network, and you use it as your DNS provider. And that is something that you can protect your whole home, and your speeds will go up. So I love Pi-hole, and I would recommend that to anybody. We're nearly done. Password manager. This can be controversial because all your eggs are going into one basket, but honestly, it's vastly better to use a password manager than not, or use the same password everywhere. I mean, use a decent passphrase, use multi-factor authentication, What I would say is don't keep multi-factor backup codes in your password manager in case it is compromised. Your main accounts, if you've got everything in there, you're toast. Explore the settings, like for example, on both LastPass and on 1Password and various others. If the extension will stay logged in forever if you don't set it to timeout after a few minutes or timeout when you close your browser, which is a risk really. So and then so basically, and use a good one. I mean, I mentioned this KeyPass, Bitwarden, 1Password, LastPass. There's a lot of them. Dashlane. In research, and you don't go with cheap and don't go with unknown, because you're trusting your digital life with it really. Final thing, if you're really paranoid, you consult your passwords. So you put the password in, but there's like a little thing that only you append or have in the middle. So even if an attacker gets your vault, they're not going to be able to log in, but they'll figure out your salt eventually. All right.
So you don't want me to set my passports on my OneNote?
Well, yeah. We're going to be coming after you with the credential scanner, right? Anyway. One thing that people do all the time, which is a bit nutty, is they browse day to day with an admin account on their personal computers. On Windows, about 95% of drive-by attacks would be thwarted if people were using standard accounts. For day-to-day activity, use a standard account and only invoke an admin account when you need to install software or something like that. What you can do is you can give one of your other fingers a fingerprint for that admin account. So all it does is prompt you, and it says, put in your PIN, your Windows Hello PIN for your admin account, or put your fingerprint, could be this one, boom, and you're done. It's the same on phones and tablets. Use biometric logins like Face ID, they're amazing. And then set a long password. You only need it when you reboot the phone. But if someone steals that phone, or if you go through some sketchy airport and a state-level attacker has it, you're going to be thankful that you've got a difficult password and someone can't brute force your 4-digit PIN, right? Aditya, you talked about backup, and I want to just drive this home. It's particularly important to have backups, especially in the world of ransomware that we have today. And I know that cloud storage providers like for a personal perspective, OneDrive and Dropbox and Google Drive and so on, iCloud, they do provide some protection. I mean, OneDrive in particular has ransomware protection because you can roll back 30 days. Use that stuff. I advise people to have one local backup, one cloud backup, and one offline backup, especially for the important stuff. And test your backups. Aditya said it, and hallelujah. You know how many times people are heartbroken because they find out their backups just don't work, and it's game over if you've got full ransomware attack, everything's encrypted, and your backups are toast. You've lost your baby pics, and you don't want to be that person. Another thing is cover up your webcams, folks, and your to some degree microphones. I know that all of our phones are actually 30-meter boom microphones, but especially if you've got children, and this is a horrible thing, but if you've got kids, you need to hear this. Children are constantly being blackmailed by people that take over their computers, especially during the pandemic, and film them through their cameras in their bedrooms, running around. And then they blackmail them to do more stuff. Predators do it, and entire APT crews do this as a business. It's truly disgusting. Don't let your children have cameras open in their bedrooms, and be very careful about them carrying their devices and stuff in their bedrooms. And it's the same with your baby cams, your doorbell cams, your security cameras. Those things show up on Shodan all the time. People don't realize they're being watched through their own devices. So be very careful about your home IoT devices, and especially cameras and webcams. Just cover that stuff up, especially for kids and young girls. Last few things. Are we okay, Sherman? Can I just burn through the last couple of things?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Enable full disk encryption. This is encryption at rest, and this is, on your devices. If you're using a Mac, use FileVault. If you're using Windows, use device encryption or BitLocker. If you're using Linux, use Veracrypt or something. If you don't, and somebody steals your device, they just need to plug in a USB and they got your data, including all those saucy pictures you took with your wife in Jamaica or whatever. Like, protect that stuff with encryption. I mean, I took those saucy pictures with my wife, but someone here probably has. The point is, always make sure that your devices have got it enabled. Some of the sort of versions of Windows and other operating systems don't do this by default. So you might need to switch it on. Like in Windows, there's always ways to switch it on. Just Google it or Bing it, and you'll find out how to do it. Many people ask about VPNs, and YouTube influencers will have you believe that all you need is a VPN and your security needs are covered. It's like back in the old days where people told you just need an antivirus. Now, VPNs are great if you're going from a low trust to a high trust network, like from your home to your corporate network. But in scenarios where you're connecting through some sketchy shell company's network that may actually be compromised, you're actually compromising yourself. So the VPN mania came about in the old days when the classic one was you're in a coffee shop and it was the fire sheep attack where you connected to Facebook and someone could intercept your session cookie and they could log in as you. Now everyone's implemented TLS. It's less of a thing. There's far fewer schmucks that are getting hacked in Wi-Fi's. That said, please do use a VPN by all means. Use it especially on untrusted networks like hotels and Wi-Fi's. But my advice to you, because we're tech nerds, is roll your own. It's trivially easy to have a little virtual machine on, all of us have probably got Azure sort of free tier Visual Studio subscriptions. You can run a little mini instance and have a little VPN that you can have yourself. You know that it's safe and secure and it meets all of your needs. Same on AWS, same on Google Cloud, or pay for a top tier provider with a very solid reputation that's got clear ownership and has been proven in court to resist things like data warrants and stuff. And if you're paranoid and you're traveling, you can, don't use Wi-Fi in hotels. Use your phone as a router. With 5G, it's going to be faster anyway. And you can get little travel routers if you're truly paranoid. Like the guy, one of my colleagues from the Azure Red Team, my God, that guy, he has a little travel router that he uses. He doesn't trust anything because he's seen stuff, the things he's seen. And look, the final thing which I'll advise you to do on personal security is check your cloud accounts settings and defaults. Purge your cloud data, go to the privacy page, see what Microsoft has on you, see what Google has on you, Apple, Facebook. Prepare to be shocked, prepare to be appalled. Your location data, your searches, clear that stuff out. Check your contacts in your recovery settings. If someone does hack you, you're going to want, don't put real answers in there. Don't actually put in your first teacher and your pet's name. Put in bogus stuff that you keep in your password manager. There was a guy at the conference that Sherman and I were at that came to me and he said, I keep getting hacked, I keep changing my password. And it turns out that he had a malicious app installed in his Office 365 account. It looked like FedEx, but it was something else. And this is a common attack. So that is the Jonathan Davis whirlwind personal security circus tour. I hope it's of value to all of you. I hope it pulls some of you from the bottom 5% to the top 5%. And look, my email is in there. Your security problem is my security problem. I'm happy to continue this conversation with any of you, really.
Well, all I can say is that, covering up your webcam, that's actually going to be a bummer for my TikTok skills. What am I going to do with that?
I know, you're accepted from the rule because, your TikTok comes first. So,
all right. Well, hey, thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it. We're going to stick around for some Q&A here. I just want to wrap up with a couple things. We actually have, go back to that. We have a whole list of resources that are available. If you're interested in the deck, just email info@crancer.us and we'll send you the deck. But I think right now you can actually go ahead and click through because this is the interactive PowerPoint. We'll probably attach this a little bit later if you come back in here. Want to make sure you all have that. The next thing over, if we just go to the next slide, please. This is Jonathan Davis's email. Now, what's very interesting about this is Jonathan is one of the few people at Microsoft that will give you the email. Most of us, every time we have a Microsofter on and they know who they are, they might be on here. You've only allowed us to put your LinkedIn. So I applaud, Jonathan on this one. I really, really do. All right, let's go ahead and move on.
Please don't sign me up to your mailing list. I do this. Of course, it's a security risk, but you're our partners, man. If I can't defend my own email, then I'm toast.
So yeah, we do want to, like, you're part of an exclusive group coming to this thing, right? So exactly. let's use this as our way to be able to have access, to this. And Jonathan's got some great decks as well. Let's go ahead and get to the next slide here. Just want to talk. We'll get into the Q&A in a second. I just want to do the last couple ones just of our group. Keep going. Just how to contact us. You can go ahead and click on here. We have a YouTube channel. We have the Crancer group at LinkedIn. Please go to that LinkedIn site and actually just follow us because we're actually going to probably shift over one of the LinkedIn lives to just the Crancer group. So go there or just go to us at crancer.us. Now go back to Stratos, please. Just want to do a quick call out. We're also partnered with Stratos Cloud Alliance. They are an amazing organization. We're having some issues with our pop-up. Scott May is the one that we work with. For those partners who are working with Stratos Cloud Alliance, we also have a marketing partnership with them. So if you're looking to drive hands-on lab leads from using hands-on labs, please contact Scott May. And if you're looking to procure licenses, dynamic licenses, go that way. Dynamics Power Platform. They're an amazing distributor that is coming out here. We fully support them and endorse them 100%. Scott is just a wonderful individual. Jeffrey D. Maria, who may be on here or not, I don't know, is an amazing individual, and we just really are happy to work with them as well. All right. So with that being said, for folks who want to leave, thank you so much for coming today. Thank you. We hope this was a good one. We'll have another one next month. We're going to actually do Partner Spotlight. We're going to get 2 partners in there, and we're going to talk about how they built their business. We're going to dig deep into the business, get some ideas. One that really understands net new customer acquisition, which is amazing. Okay, think about this. Net new customer acquisition, which is one of the toughest things. One that understands that's going to tell us tips and tricks on that. And then the other one, Walter from the Bound Group, just really believe in Walter and his group, the Bound Group. They're really great. They're a power platform partner that really understands the method of marketing and what it takes to bring it in. It's just very interesting. So you'll really like that. Okay. With that being said, Okay. 1 second. Hey. Walter, do you want to just come on here really quick if you're still on? Let's see. Is he?
Sure. What's up?
There he is. Just wanted you to say hi. Hey, and just Dylan, what you type the question? Okay, yeah, no. So we already showed his video. We'll get into that, Dylan, later. But okay, just wanted to say hello because you're going to be our next speaker on the next thing. Walter's really awesome. We're really proud of his group. So perfect. Okay, let's get into Q&A. Sorry, that's a quick one. We had a little thing. Let's go to Q&A. Let's get into it. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions directly for Jonathan Davis or Aditya? On here. All right, so let's just take a look. I'm going to give it a second. Let's see. Most important areas in which to focus. Oh, thank you, Brian. All right, that was cool. Any specific questions that you can go ahead and type in here, or if you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you and take the video or allow you to get on video as well. So we'll let some people type in here. I'll just give us a little of my own commentary. That personal, man. When I was writing down some of those personal ones when I was at Directions, and that's how I was like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, geez, the VPN thing. We don't think about that because I think a lot of times we're like, oh yeah, we're just going and we'll get into the hotel. And then when you mentioned the one about the hotel, about why don't you just use your phone because it's faster than the hotel? Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. It is so much faster. But we just, you get into these mindsets, like you keep going. But let's see. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Otherwise,
I had a question that maybe people can type in the chat window out there. I was curious to see which all industries are most reticent right now to full-fledgedly adopt some of these security, into the aspects that Jonathan shared, right? I know there's some companies which feel, well, we already secure, we really don't need that. What industries do you see that in?
Is that for Jonathan?
Well, no, it's just for people in the chat window to just drop in whatever industries they feel that, when they talk to those people in those industries, we're the ones who say, no, we feel secure. We really don't need that next level of security. Are there any? But I know that, some of the companies like, some of the insurance companies and all, they're just so, old school, don't want to necessarily, move to the cloud or even, and, for these people, it's very critical because as soon as they lose their data, they're, dead in water, right? As opposed to some other ones.
Yeah. Well, we've seen recently a lot of law firms are surprisingly behind times, and it's like you're in the legal industry, you're going to get sued. Like, why aren't you adopting the most? Like, are you have And I always find it kind of odd. Like, wait a minute, that's.
I also see that in not-for-profit organizations, right? they're the ones who also feel that, hey, you know what, we're not here to make money. We're not for profit, and therefore we don't need to necessarily have all this operational rigor in place, right? So again, as MSPs, I think that's a great opportunity for you to talk to some other folks in these industries and explain to them all the things that Jonathan should have scared you with already.
Well, great. Well, it's 18 minutes after the hour. I want to say thank you, everyone. Let's just give let's see, do we have anything in here? We did a lot of reinforcements. All right, Jonathan, thanks again, man. And Aditya, thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And for all that have been here, thank you very much for being here. We look forward to seeing you again next month, the last Friday of the month. If why don't you throw up that pre-register poll again if you can. Let us know if you want us to pre-register you. We'll just go ahead and fill it out, and then you'll just get the invite. Let us know. I don't know if we can do that up again, but we'll do that. But hey, or use the link that we put in the thing. But everyone, thanks again. Thanks. Just happy to do this. This was a great show. Have a great afternoon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you.
All right. We'll just give it a second, Jonathan and Aditya. We'll close out the